What's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And today we are doing the ultimate complete guide on how to use the security guard class in Byte by Night. This is going to cover absolutely everything from the basics all the way to advanced strategies, because security guard is one of the strongest support classes in the game when played properly. But it's also one of the hardest classes for newer players to fully understand. A lot of people unlock security guard, see the taser, and instantly think the class is supposed to be aggressive, like you're meant to run directly at the killer and constantly force fights. That is probably the fastest way possible to get eliminated every single match. Security guard is not about being fearless, over-aggressive, or trying to become the main character of every chase. It's a support and control class built around awareness, timing, positioning, patience, and teamwork. The best security guard players are not the loudest players in the lobby, or the players constantly sprinting around trying to make risky plays. The best security guard players are the ones quietly controlling the flow of the entire match, without most people even realizing it. Your goal is to help your teammates survive longer, interrupt the killer's momentum at important moments, gather information through cameras, control dangerous situations, and constantly force the killer to waste time. A really good security guard can completely change the pace of a match, because the class gives survivors more opportunities to recover from mistakes, more safety during objectives, and more information about where danger is located. One of the most important things to understand immediately is that security guard rewards smart decision-making far more than aggression. If you panic during dangerous situations, rush your abilities, or constantly put yourself in bad positions, the class will feel weak very quickly. But if you stay calm, think ahead, and learn proper timing, you can become one of the most valuable players in the entire lobby. One reason this class is so strong is because security guard affects every part of the match at the same time. You influence chases, objectives, map control, team movement, information gathering, and pressure management all at once. Even if you aren't directly fighting the killer or dealing damage, your decisions constantly influence how the match develops. Many newer players underestimate how important support really is, until they go against a coordinated team with an experienced security guard. Suddenly, the killer struggles to secure eliminations. Survivors escape situations they normally wouldn't survive. Objectives get completed faster because players feel safer moving around the map, and the entire team becomes harder to pressure overall. That's the real power of security guard. The class doesn't usually dominate through brute force. It dominates by creating control. The taser is obviously the most important ability security guard has, so understanding how to use it properly should be your #1 priority if you want to improve. The taser is designed to interrupt the killer's momentum and create opportunities for survivors to survive dangerous situations. It can slow the killer, stop pressure during important moments, and completely change the outcome of a chase when used correctly. However, a lot of players misuse it because they treat it like a weapon instead of a support tool. One of the most common mistakes newer players make is charging the taser directly in front of the killer while standing in an open area. If the killer already sees you and you begin charging without any cover nearby, there's a very good chance you'll get eliminated before you even finish charging. Instead, you should always use walls, corners, obstacles, and line of sight to protect yourself while preparing your taser. Good positioning is what makes the taser dangerous. A security guard hidden around a corner with a prepared taser creates pressure because the killer never knows exactly when the interruption is coming. The threat alone can sometimes force hesitation. Think of the taser as a tool that creates opportunities rather than something designed to win fights directly. Your goal is not to hunt the killer or constantly challenge them face to face. Your goal is to interrupt them at the perfect moment and give your teammates room to survive. Timing is everything with this class, and learning proper timing takes practice. The taser has multiple levels of charge, and each level has different strengths depending on the situation. Quick tasers are best used during emergency situations where a teammate is about to get hit, and you need instant pressure immediately. Sometimes even a small interruption is enough to completely save a teammate. Medium charge tasers are usually the safest and most reliable option, because they provide stronger effects while still charging quickly enough to remain relatively safe. Most experienced security guard players rely heavily on medium charge tasers because they balance effectiveness and survivability extremely well. Fully charged tasers are incredibly powerful and can completely ruin the killer's momentum during a critical chase. But they are also much riskier because charging for too long slows you down and leaves you vulnerable. Fully charged tasers should usually be saved for situations where you know you have enough safety to prepare them properly without exposing yourself. One of the biggest differences between average security guards and experienced ones is patience. Many newer players panic the second they see the killer and immediately waste their taser without thinking. Experienced players understand that waiting creates more value. If your teammate still has distance from the killer and there's no immediate danger yet, there's no reason to panic. Save the taser until the killer truly commits to the chase. Once the killer fully focuses on the target and starts pressuring aggressively, that's when your interruption becomes most valuable. Properly timed tasers can completely destroy the killer's momentum and turn losing situations into successful escapes. Some of the best moments in the game happen when you save a teammate at exactly the right second and completely reverse what looked like a guaranteed elimination. Another advanced skill is understanding when not to use your taser at all. This sounds simple, but it's something many players struggle with. Sometimes holding onto the taser creates more pressure than using it immediately. If the killer knows you are nearby with a taser available, they may hesitate before fully committing to risky situations. That hesitation alone can waste valuable time and create opportunities for your team. Security guard is not just about direct ability usage. It's also about psychological pressure. The killer constantly has to think about where you are positioned and whether an interruption might happen. That uncertainty can slow them down significantly. Another huge part of security guard gameplay is the camera system. And honestly, this is one of the abilities that truly separates average players from great players. Information is one of the strongest advantages survivors can possibly have in Bite by Night. Knowing where the killer is changes the way the entire team moves around the map. Survivors can avoid dangerous areas, rotate between objectives safely, and prepare for incoming chases much earlier. Many newer players underestimate cameras because they think they can rely on sight and sound alone, but experienced teams understand that constant information is incredibly powerful. Cameras allow you to track the killer's movement across the map, warn teammates about incoming danger, identify safe objective areas, and help survivors avoid ambushes entirely. Cameras become especially powerful against stealth killers because they remove a huge part of the surprise factor those killers depend on. However, one of the biggest mistakes security guard players make is spending too much time inside cameras. You should never sit still watching cameras for long periods because standing still makes you extremely vulnerable. The best way to use cameras is through short information checks. Open cameras, scan important areas, locate the killer, gather the information you need, and then immediately close them so you can continue moving. Security guard works best when constantly cycling between information gathering and repositioning around the map. Staying mobile is incredibly important because stationary players become easy targets. Good camera usage also helps your teammates stay calm because informed teams make better decisions under pressure. Simple communication can completely change the outcome of matches. Callouts like killer near generators, killer heading east hallway, or safe near main room can help your entire team survive longer. Security guard becomes dramatically stronger when paired with good communication because your information affects everyone. Positioning is another skill that completely determines whether you succeed or fail with this class. Honestly, positioning alone can make an average player survive far longer than a mechanically skilled player with bad habits. Every time you move through the map, you should think about escape routes, nearby cover, line of sight, teammate locations, and possible danger zones. Open spaces are dangerous because they expose you while charging the taser and make escaping harder if the killer spots you. Areas with corners, walls, obstacles, and multiple exits are much safer because they let you break line of sight and reposition effectively. You should also avoid isolating yourself too far away from teammates whenever possible. Security guard becomes strongest when supporting active chases and helping survivors during dangerous moments. Staying close enough to assist while still maintaining safe positioning is one of the hardest balancing acts in the class. Stamina management is another extremely important skill that many players ignore completely. A lot of newer players sprint non-stop even when there's no immediate danger, and then once the killer finally appears, they have no stamina left for escaping. Managing stamina correctly gives you far more flexibility during dangerous situations. Walk whenever it's safe, and save your sprinting for moments that actually matter. Panic running usually creates bad positioning and rushed decisions. Calm players almost always survive longer because they conserve resources and think more clearly under pressure. Security guard also has incredible synergy with other classes, which is another reason the class becomes so valuable in coordinated teams. Pairing with a fighter can be extremely powerful because fighters pressure the killer directly while you provide support from safer positions. A fighter can force the killer into difficult situations, and your taser can interrupt the killer during critical moments, creating massive amounts of wasted time. Together, these classes can completely destroy the killer's momentum if coordinated properly. Security guard also works very well with medics because your interruptions and support create opportunities for healing and recovery. Medics can reset bad situations, and your support helps create the time needed for those resets to happen safely. Even double security guard teams can become extremely powerful if both players coordinate tasers and camera usage correctly. Rotating interruptions, sharing information, and controlling different areas of the map can make it very difficult for the killer to maintain pressure consistently. Understanding killer matchups is also extremely important for improving with security guard. Different killers require different approaches. Against aggressive killers, spacing and patience become critical. You should avoid challenging them directly unless you know you can safely interrupt. Aggressive killers often depend on survivors panicking and making rushed mistakes, so staying calm is one of the best ways to counter them. Against stealth killers, cameras become much more valuable because they remove the surprise factor and help your team track dangerous movements. Against ranged killers, positioning becomes even more important because standing in open areas while charging your taser can get you eliminated instantly. In those situations, line-of-sight management and careful cover usage are essential. Another advanced concept security guard players learn over time is psychological influence. Even the possibility of an interruption can change how the killer behaves. Sometimes simply being nearby with a taser available is enough to force hesitation. The killer begins worrying about possible interruptions and may hesitate before committing fully to risky chases. This hesitation creates openings for survivors and slows down pressure significantly. Security guard becomes stronger at higher levels because experienced players understand how to create pressure without needing to constantly use abilities. Another difficult lesson every security guard eventually learns is that not every teammate can be saved. Many newer players develop a hero mindset where they attempt impossible rescues no matter the situation, which usually results in multiple survivors getting caught instead of just one. Smart decision-making matters more than reckless bravery. Sometimes the best choice is to stay alive and continue supporting the rest of the team, instead of risking everything on a rescue that is unlikely to succeed. A living security guard continues providing information, interruptions, and support throughout the match. Panic is another huge weakness for many players using this class. Security guard requires calm thinking because your effectiveness depends heavily on timing, positioning, and decision-making. If you panic during dangerous situations, you are much more likely to waste your taser, move into unsafe areas, or lose track of escape routes. Experienced players stay controlled under pressure. They think ahead, maintain good positioning, and carefully manage abilities instead of reacting emotionally. Another huge difference between average security guards and great ones is prediction. Average players react after danger already appears. Great players predict danger before it even happens. They think about where the killer will probably move next, which teammates are vulnerable, and where they should position themselves before problems even begin. Prediction allows you to support your team much earlier and much more effectively. Over time, you'll start recognizing common killer patterns, common chase routes, and common survivor mistakes. Learning these patterns helps you position proactively instead of reactively. Security Guard is one of the most rewarding classes in Byte by Night because your decisions constantly influence the entire match. You control information, create opportunities, slow down the killer's momentum, and help your teammates survive situations that would normally end badly. The class might not look as flashy as some others initially, but in coordinated matches, a strong security guard can easily become the backbone of the entire team. If you want to improve with this class, focus on patience, positioning, stamina management, awareness, communication, and teamwork. Learn when to use your taser, when to save it, when to gather information, and when to reposition around the map. Avoid common mistakes like charging in open spaces, panicking during chases, or isolating yourself too far from teammates. Security Guard rewards players who stay calm, think ahead, and understand how to control the flow of the match. Once you master these responsibilities, the class becomes incredibly powerful and extremely satisfying to play, because you begin realizing just how much impact one smart support player can have on an entire lobby. So if you're trying to become a better security guard in Byte by Night, remember that your role is not to be the strongest fighter or the most aggressive player in the lobby. Your role is to control the pace of the match, support your teammates, interrupt the killer's plans, gather information, create pressure, and give your team the opportunities they need to survive the night.
For this.